Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the webinar on Leading the Way. This is Madeline Schultz with Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. I'm so pleased you can all join us today. As many of you are aware, the Women in Ag Learning Network is a brand new. We just launched this summer. This is actually our fourth webinar and the first webinar of our fall series on women's changing roles in agriculture. So we're just very excited to have you all with us. A couple of things I just want to go over first. We would really appreciate it if those of you participating could put your email addresses in the chat box. What we will use that for is to send you a follow-up evaluation so that you could let us know how we're doing on our webinars and also share with us your ideas for future webinars, things you'd like to learn more about. So we'd sure appreciate that if you could do that, so thank you. We do have with us two of our Women in Ag Learning Network leaders, and I just wanted to introduce them to you since they are so important. We have Lisa Scarborough from Iowa State University. Can you say hi, Lisa?
Hello.
Thank you. And we have Beth Holzman from the University of Vermont. And Beth and Lisa are our co-chairs. You want to say hi too, Beth?
Hello, everyone. I'm glad you could be here.
Thank you, Beth. So as I mentioned, I'll be the moderator for today's webinar. And so I will be kind of directing our speakers as well as answering some of the questions. Now, feel free to type in questions into the chat box at any time, and we will try to get all of your questions answered, mostly at the end of the webinar. So just kind of be aware of that, but you can go ahead and ask those questions at any time. Today we have with us Jewel Hairston. She is the Dean of the School of Agriculture at Virginia State University, and Kate Danner, who's Vice President of Longley Farms in Illinois. Jewel and Kate, do you want to say hello to everyone?
Hello, everyone. This is Jewel Hairston. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Jewel.
Hi, this is Kate Danner. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Well, thank you, Kate, and thank you both for being with us today. We are not able to connect with the U.S. Deputy Secretary, Krista Harden, today. So I'm very sorry to disappoint everyone there. She definitely sends her regrets and hopes to do a webinar with us in the future. However, some things came up beyond her control, and she was just not able to be here with us today in person. We will be hearing a brief recorded message from her, actually a little short video from her a little bit later in our webinar. So again, I apologize that the Deputy Secretary is not able to join us, but we're very pleased to continue this discussion on women's leadership roles in her absence. So thank you for your understanding there. So here's a little overview of what we're going to do today. First, I'll be starting off by just giving you a very quick overview of how women are changing boardrooms and rural landscapes. Then we'll hear the video message from the Deputy Secretary, and then we'll hear Jewel's story, followed by Kate's story. And we'll wrap up our webinar with questions and answers and discussion with all of you. And I see that many of you are putting your email addresses into the chat box, and we sure appreciate your willingness to do that. Thank you. So there is a leadership gap among men and women. You may be aware that women have become 50% of college graduates in the U.S. since 1980s. As a result, they've been taking on more and more leadership roles, and yet there's still a big divide in the leadership roles that men and women have. And I'm speaking very generally here, not only in agriculture, but in all industries in the U.S. Here are just a few statistics from the book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, which is a great read if you have an interest in women's leadership issues. So Sheryl says that 21% of the Fortune 500 leaders are women. 17% of board seats across America are held by women, and 18% of elected officials are women. So these are just a few stats giving you an indication that women have a ways to go in leading and serving in different managerial and leadership roles. So today's webinar, we are really celebrating all those women in agriculture who are leading the way to develop new leadership traditions and demonstrate the importance and value of women as leaders. Women are managing complex farm businesses. They're starting new businesses. They're serving on local, regional, and state boards. These may be rural electric boards, county conservation boards, maybe it's a bank board, maybe it's a school board and helping to educate our children in that way. So those are many ways that women are serving on boards. They are also innovating in food production and conservation methods. They are involved in all kinds of cutting-edge, leading-edge efforts to produce food, everything, all kinds of different products, as well as all kinds of different methods in producing that food. Women are also leading in agribusinesses and ag service industries, and they are teaching the next generation, which is so important. So we really want to celebrate all these roles that women have. Next, I just wanted to highlight a few women that are leading across the country and just kind of give you some examples of how women are leading. So here's Katie Althoff. She is second from the left in this photo, and she was recently out in New York City with the Common Ground explaining how she produces food on the Channel 5 News. And she's just a great example of someone who has did not grow up in farming, married a turkey farmer, loves the turkey business, has now become a communications specialist with the Turkey Federation. She also owns her own business called The Home Shed. And that is a local arts and crafts business. And she is also a blogger and writer. Recently, Katie just wrote a brand new book for children about farming. So just a great example of someone who is really doing a lot to help others learn about agriculture. Here's an example from South Dakota. This is Kim Vanneman, and she has provided leadership in lots of different ways, both in her farm business, which she operates with her husband, as well as serving in various public roles and private boards. So she has served in the South Dakota House of Representatives and is chairman of the State Board of Water and Natural Resources. She's also been a longtime member of Farm Credit Services of America Board and has kind of advanced through the ranks there to also serve on the District Agribank and the National Farm Credit Council. So hats off to Kim there in her leadership role. Here's a young woman, Kelly Hastings, a 30-year-old from Vermont, and she started a new goat business where she is producing artisanal goat's milk caramel sauce. So a very unique and niche business. Not only has she started her own business and developed award-winning foods, but she is a farm consultant and teacher, teaching over 70 beginning women farmers over the last 5 years, helping them to plan their businesses. So just a wonderful example of sharing her business expertise with others. And next, I just have one more example for you before we get on to our guest speakers. This is Pam Simmons from Ohio. She's a horticulturalist and an innovator in green infrastructure. So many of you may have been hearing more about green infrastructure, but that is all about creating landscaping that is very environmentally friendly, ways to gather and save water for future use, ways to create landscapes, both urban and rural, that require less fuels, less chemicals, less inputs to maintain. So quite the innovator there. Pam is also very proud of her family farm, and the land goes all the way back to a deed by President John Adams. So I just wanted to mention that, how that tradition of farming continues in her family. So next we will hear a video message. We'll be able to see that on your screen as well, from the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Agriculture, Krista Hardin. Now she is the third female to hold this position, so that's really speaks a lot for women and the way that they've been able to contribute to agriculture by serving as the Deputy Secretary. She is a 30-year veteran of Washington, D.C. agriculture organizations and has been involved in many areas of government before becoming the Deputy Secretary. So she really brings a wealth of experience to this role. And in her role, she is very interested in building a strong and diverse future for women in agriculture. We are going to hear a little bit from Kate and Jewel about one of the Deputy Secretary's recent initiatives where she held a women's dialogue at the White House to kind of focus on women's leadership roles in agriculture. But next, let's go ahead and see her short video. We'll turn that over to you, Lisa. Well, thank you very much, Lisa, for showing us that video, and I hope that worked well for everybody. It sure came through on my screen beautifully. We've had a few people join us since the beginning of the call, and I would like to mention that we'd appreciate it if you could put your email address in the chat box, and that will allow us to send you an email with some follow-up materials and a survey to help us know what other topics of interest you have for future webinars. So thank you for adding your emails there. So one of the questions that Krista has left us with now is, who inspires you? Who inspires you in agriculture? Who are the women you look up to? I invite you to put those names into our chat box, and perhaps later we'll have a chance to share some of those stories. But please go ahead and share those names with us. We'd love to see them. Who inspires you? So two people that definitely inspire us are Kate Danner and Jewel Hairston. and we're so pleased to have them both with us today and to hear their stories. So we are going to go ahead to Kate next, and I'll just give a little bit of an introduction here to Kate and then let you share her story with you. So, Jewel. Jewel is next. So Jewel is the current dean of the School of Agriculture at Virginia State University. That is a role that she rose up to from her role as a 4-H youth development specialist, where she really focused on issues that addressed bullying among today's youth. So a very important topic there. And Jewel has a lot of responsibility, as you can see on this slide. She is leading some strategic visioning. She leads 120 employees and is responsible for more than $12 million in funds as part of the university. So we're just so pleased that she could take time out of her day here to join us. And Jewel, I'll let you take it over from there. And thank you again so much for being with us, Dr. Hairston.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
I can certainly hear you. If there's anybody online that is having trouble hearing Jewel, just chat that into the box.
Okay, I see some yeses. So first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. I am so honored to be a part of this conversation. I feel privileged to be on this call and sharing this moment with Kate Danner, and it's just really a great opportunity. I did have the privilege of being at the Women's Dialogue in Agriculture with Deputy Secretary Hardin, who happens to be one of the women who inspires me. And as I looked around the room, I just thought, what an incredible moment for us to share, to be invited to the White House to have this discussion, to have Secretary Vilsack be there with us. And my mouth was open for days just over the invitation. But I have had a wonderful opportunity to be the Dean of the College of Agriculture at Virginia State. I have been the Dean since 2011, and I remember my first day coming into this position wondering if I would last one day, and I look up and now the years have gone by, and I appreciate the background that you gave me. I did not come from a rural or an agricultural background. I came from the city of Petersburg, which happens to be the location of Virginia State University. I used to go to my grandmother's house, and she had a garden, but I didn't associate with that garden because there were lots of bugs out there, and it was hot, and I didn't want to be involved with that. And I laughed because there are folks just like me who I'm now trying to promote agriculture to now, and I laugh at the attitude I had, and I understand why young people today, especially African-American kids who grow up in urban environments, they have no connection with agriculture at all, and that's part of my mission. But I did come into agriculture through cooperative extension, and I love young people. And as a 4-H extension specialist, I had an opportunity to really connect with the youth development aspect and to learn about the importance of working with rural communities, urban communities, and I got my first touch at working with producers. I think one of the things that drives me in this job is when I have an opportunity to go out and meet with one of our producers, to meet with the husband and the wife and the kids who put blood, sweat, and tears into making their small operation work. And at Virginia State, we work with a lot of small producers. They may have 2 acres. They may have as many as 50 acres. A lot of them produce alternative crops. We do a lot of work with agricultural diversification and value added, and a lot of that is tied to the work that small farmers do. We're very much into locally produced foods in Virginia, and so to have the opportunity to go out and often to meet with the women who are the backbone of the operation. Not only can they get out and do the physical work, but they also run a lot of the operations. So to see all of the women now who are emerging in agriculture as new leaders, as new business owners, it just amazes me and it drives me. And there's so much that we have to do to lift one another up. In the College of Agriculture, one of the things I do love to do is sit down and talk with our students. And I find that the young women at this university are so in need of someone to lead them and to guide them. They are looking for any help, even if you need to tell them how to act like a lady, if you need to tell them what they need to do to advance their careers, because a lot of them are looking to make a footprint in the area of agriculture, and they don't know how to do it. And I now have an opportunity to pave the way for them to become future leaders. To talk about agriculture and to talk about the importance of foods. That's how I connect people with agriculture. And I always try to get women to think about the importance of healthy and safe food and how critical it is to them and to their lives. And so there's just so much that we can do as women in agriculture. I happen to be the only female dean at an 1890 land-grant institution. There are 19 of them in the southeast part of the United States, and I'm the only female dean. And I get teased sometimes about that, but I think a lot of people applaud me because being a female in agriculture is not necessarily all that easy. Being an African-American female in agriculture is that much more difficult. So it's not an easy job, but it's an important job because I think all of us have that role of leading the way for those who are coming alongside us or even behind us. So at the Women's Dialogue, I said, as much as we talk about opportunities that men may or may not have given us, because men gave me an opportunity to be dean, we also have to make sure that we lift each other up and support one another so that we all can be successful. So those are just a few comments that I have, and I just really appreciate the opportunity to be on the call.
Thank you so much. And we have a couple of pictures next that you shared with us. Would you like to tell us about those?
Actually, the picture that you see there is from our Small Farm Family Conference last week. And that's a family of our farmer. That's a picture of our Farmer of the Year. It was just so wonderful to see. And we had never given the award to a Hispanic producer. And it's just so awesome to see us working with new populations of individuals. But that's just a picture of the family who won the Farmer of the Year award. And they're just the Avandas. They're just wonderful individuals who are running a very successful operation and do it well.
Great. Thanks for sharing their picture and story.
And that's just another picture of another individual that we honored through the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Very humble person, excellent producer, a role model to the community. And so both of these pictures are from that event.
Thank you for sharing those pictures and for letting us know a little bit about the event. Sounds like a very worthwhile endeavor there.
Thank you.
So next we have Kate Danner. She is a farmer from Illinois, and I'm proud to say she's a graduate of Iowa State University, too. That's great.
Absolutely.
So, go Cyclones. So, Kate is very involved in her farm business, and she's also very involved in her local agricultural organizations, which I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit more about. So, Kate, we are so pleased to have you with us today, too, to tell your story. And I'll let you click on the little arrows in the lower left-hand corner to go ahead and advance through some slides that you have provided. So if you'd like to go ahead, you're welcome to do so. And again, we're so glad to have you with us.
Great. Thank you so much. And thanks again for having me here. So again, I am Kate Danner, and I'm the Vice President of Longley Farm. So my maiden name was Longley, and when I got married, I changed my name to Danner. So I still kept my maiden name, which is now my middle name. So I always try to put that L in as much, because there's a lot of pride with the Longley name. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, and I'm going to kind of tell you my story. I'm going to tell you about, why I decided to farm. I'm going to tell you a little about my family operation. I'm going to tell you about some of the challenges and the rewards. I'm going to tell you about my current role. I'm going to talk a little bit about the dialogue, and then I'm going to tell you some plans for the future, kind of where I see, my life heading to, as a farmer and as a leader in the boardroom as well. So first off, this is my farm. This is the original part of 180 acres that my great-great-grandfather bought in 1901. I'm the fifth generation, and today my father and I, we manage 1,500 acres. My husband also helps on the farm, but he has his own excavation business, and he really helps us during the busy times and the times that are most convenient for him. But he's a great asset. He's also a proud graduate from Iowa State as well. So that's where we met, was Iowa State. The next picture is of my dad and I. My dad has been the biggest champion for me. He has never once doubted anything that I could do on the farm. Every once in a while he jokes about my strength because he just, as you can tell, he looks like a pretty strong man. He he can undo anything, he can fix anything, and sometimes, my strength may be a little bit limiting, but we just get a bigger breaker bar or a bigger tool, and anyways, we're just really able to. I'm able to do that because my lack of strength. But he's been my biggest champ. Anytime I've ever said, hey, I think I want to bid on this ground, he's been like, okay, well, let's run the numbers. And then we'll decide if it's really a profit or not. So our farm has really changed over time. I believe that my grandfather told my great-grandfather there'll be no more horses on this farm, and which we may all laugh about, but that was only about 70 years ago. And today, I don't have to put in that kind of physical labor. We have enough equipment that I can take out 50 acres of beans a day in a very short amount of time, and I can drive my truck all the way to the elevator, and we don't have to rely on a lot of labor because we have the advances of all this equipment. Some of the challenges that have kind of been on my farm is that I don't think that anybody ever tells you that when you go into college and you're like, I want to be a farmer, and they give you all this science, and they tell you how much you need to study and how much you need to understand your soil theories, and you need to understand what happens when this molecule goes with this molecule. Is it going to break down this residue, and what's the best nutrients for your corn or your soybeans or whatever to grow. But nobody ever tells you that the risk that's involved with agriculture. Nobody ever tells you that if you're going to buy a piece of equipment that it's going to be 3 times as much as what you're ever going to pay for a house. Nobody ever tells you that, and I think that's really wild. That that was kind of a hard challenge for me to come of how much capital it really takes for a farmer to farm. I would say especially for the commercial industry like corn and soybeans, which is what we raise on our farm. But that was kind of an eye-opener. But the reward of being a farm and taking over your own farm, as it's been passed down through generation, is that this is my family. We live on the largest highway in town, and everyone's like, oh, when you go past, when you're headed to Joy, which is a neighboring town, make sure that you go over Longley Hills. And we've been there for 100 years, and that's how everybody knows. And there's just a lot of pride in a small town of your name that people refer to landmarks because you've been there so long. And so that's kind of about the past, and that's kind of who I am and why I decided to farm, and then kind of some of the changes that have been on the farm and a little bit of challenges. So today I'm going to talk about some of the not internships, but some of the trips I've been on with different boards like the United Soybean Board, the Illinois Soybean Association, Farm Bureau, kind of some of the opportunities that I've really had, kind of maybe more so in the boardroom. And this picture is this is a woman farmer from Nebraska. Her name's Lavelle, and she is a marketer. And she bids on different grain, and we're down in Ecuador, and we took this wonderful tour about how Ecuadorians are in real demand of soybean meal, and that's what's behind us. And so we're taking a tour of this plant, and Ecuador is really in demand for soybean meal because they need all that soybean meal for their livestock. They're really large into poultry production. They're getting larger into hogs, and they need a lot of the soybean meal that they have. But for us, we need to market that. And Lavelle and I, we were the only women on the trip, but people were really excited that hey, we've got young women involved, and that's really encouraging. And I've been serving with the Illinois Soybean Association for the past 2 years as a young leader. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to get young farmers involved. And I can tell you that a vast majority of the board has been so encouraging. I've been sent on more trips, and I've been recognized more so than I ever thought in my entire life. And people they're really excited to see just young people involved, not young women specifically, but young people in general. And it's been really encouraging to want to farm, to want to be a leader when you're wanted to be there. And I think the industry has done a really good job about doing that. The next picture was this summer I got to go to, or this past month, Jewel and I, we got to go to the White House. And this is a back tour of the White House, which I never thought that I would ever be so close. But the dialogue was very interesting. Not only was it highlighting women, but it was saying all the accomplishments that we had, and how women have just we really stood up, we really came to the plate. And when I talk about farming, and when I think about farming, I think that it's such a family. Not only was it dad that was maybe out in the field, but it was mom that was really doing the books. That maybe not be the scenario on our farm, but it really has taken the whole family to come through. And that's what I like to think about when I think about farming and I think about women, is that it takes everybody to make the farm work. And here at this conference, or here at this dialogue, that's what we talked about in DC. And I thought it was also very interesting that in DC that we were talking about how in rural areas that's where children are in the most poverty, which I thought was very, very interesting. And the rural areas is where we have an abundant amount of food production. And so we were kind of talking about maybe a little bit of a correlation of how through women can we feed children, because we have this opportunity. We have such a vast opportunity of agriculture in the rural areas. Other things that I've been a part of is, this is my congresswoman. This is Sherry Bustos. She's in the center with the bright skirt on. And the other woman is with the Illinois Soybean Association, and the other 3 men are directors, a part of the Illinois Soybean Association. And they're all farmers. They're very successful farmers. And every single person in this picture has just been excited to see, again, young people a part of farming. But it's also very important for congresswomen, or congressmen and women, to see that women are stepping up to the plate, and we are in your district, and not to forget about us, and we are making big changes. Another thing that I really try to do is small towns. We all kind of want to know what's going on, and I really try to let my community know what I've been doing. And so I always try to report, hey, I've been here, or hey, I've been in DC, and this is what's going on. And people have really taken really well to that. They're always like, oh my gosh, you want to talk about this? And I can't tell you how many people in our community are like, that's so great that you're standing up and that you're making changes, not only for our small town, but also for farmers and for women as well. And we're so happy that you're that representative for our small town. That's currently what I've been doing. And future, this is my husband. I think he's really handsome. And he again, like I said, he has his own excavation business, and then I farm. And so, some days I help him move equipment, and some days, he helps me take out the crop. And we're very much partnership in business and in marriage. And we want to run our own businesses because we believe in the future of our hard work and our dedication. And, we want to have this future for our children. And how we're going to do that is through hard work and through building together. This is one of excavation projects. He's building a foundation for the home. And he's been trying with the idea of me running the dozer. So we can get more work done together. But I think I've got a lot along the road ahead with that. And then this is picture of me when I just got done planting. I feel like a lot of the other pictures I was pretty clean up and pristine. And I really I can't say how much hard work it's going to take for where the farm is today, and how much my previous generations have built it up. And you know, I need my husband and I need my father to really be my champions, and they have been thus far. And you know, we've grown the farm, we've grown his business, and you know, it's going to take a lot more work over the next couple of years, or the next life for our lifetime, to get where we want to go. So thank you so much for having me today.
Well, thank you, Kate. It was wonderful to hear your story, and we're just all so proud of you. You are really a spokesperson for agriculture, and just obviously a good farm manager. So it's just really inspiring to hear your story. So I would like to give any of our other speakers a chance to make some comments if they would like, and then we will take some questions from our audience, and you can go ahead and type your questions into the chat box, and we'll direct those to our guest speakers today. So again, Jewel and Kate have met each other. They were at the White House Dialogue on Women Together, so that's just really neat that they have had that opportunity and can both join us on this webinar. So after hearing a little bit more about Kate's story, I was wondering if you had some comments you would like to add, Jewel.
It was great to hear Kate's story. I love the pictures that she put in. And Kate, I really admire that you put your family first, because that's really what's very important. And as women, it's also important to show that oftentimes that there's someone behind us, and very often it's a male who has allowed us to climb on their shoulders. Certainly my husband has. Or there's someone who supported us in what we've done, and we've needed that support. And so that, it's really critical to show that. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. It looks like there are some questions up here. Are you going to read them, Lisa or Madeline, or how?
Yes, I will go ahead and direct those. And so a couple of these questions coming in are kind of directed towards Kate, and we've got some questions about transitioning the farm from one generation to the next. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process, Kate?
Well, first off, I can tell you that it's challenging because, and I can tell you this from personal experience, because my father is definitely at this point to where he thinks he's ready to retire, but he's just not really sure. And he's kind of in this mode where I don't know if I really want to work as much as I do, and I want you to pick that up. But we have to talk a lot. And since he's really worked by himself, especially for the past 15 years. It's really hard for him to communicate that to me. So, and I'm a little bit more of a talker than he is. So we do a lot of talking, probably more than what he really wants. But for transitioning, I think especially for the capital side, I try to save every penny that I can. This is just personal, but I save I save one paycheck a month. I get 2 paychecks a month, and I save 1 paycheck a month, and that paycheck is going into investing into some of the equipment, some of the assets that the farm has, so then I can turn around and I can use those assets to build up my capital. Not every farm is like that. I've heard of different farms that have where you start investing, like you buy 1% of the farm, and then the next year, they transfer over another percentage of the farm. But the transitioning, it's not same. It's not the same for every farm, and I know that I'm not giving specific details about that. But if you can just keep those lines of communication open, if you can keep somebody discussing with you about the future of what is going to happen when you're not working, and what are your plans. If you can keep that open, again, if you can keep family first, then that's really that's the best way to go about it. Is you have to be open, you have to be willing to work hard, and you have to keep that communication.
Well, those are excellent words of advice, Kate. Keeping the communication going, and we all know that sometimes that can be challenging, whether we're working with family members or non-family members, and also just understanding that it does take time. It's something that happens over a period of years, gradually, and you just have to keep working at it. So we sure appreciate you sharing that experience. So other questions are coming in as well.
I would really just like to tell Jewel how much I admire her for being in the academia world. People always applaud me for being on my farm, but we were talking before the conference how you were just exhausted, and once my crop's out, I can kind of take it easy, and you're there every day, all year long, trying to educate students, trying to come up with new ideas. And so I really applaud Jewel for all of her hard work on the industry side and on the education side.
Oh, thank you very much. I guess just like any of us, we all have to find our balance. For women, it's particularly hard, and I hear this from producers, especially those who have children, women who are farming. You're trying to run the operation. You're trying to run the numbers. You're trying to make decisions about how to market effectively. And then you have your children who need food, and they have to do homework, and it can be a bit overwhelming. And I think it's all a challenge of trying to balance everything, and to realize that we're not going to be good at everything, but we can be really good at a couple of things, and forgive ourselves for the rest, and we're successful.
That is certainly great advice too. Thank you, Jewel. So we've got a lot of questions about transitioning the farm, and a few questions about the marketing too. Would you like to speak to the marketing, Kate?
Oh, goodness, marketing. Well, I can only say the marketing for corn and soybeans because, again, that's what I grow. But marketing, it's one of those things that if you have to pay attention, and it's not just a year to year, and it's not just what's going on in the U.S. It's really a global. It's I need to be concerned about how the bean crop is doing in South America right now because of how it's going to affect mine. And if the bean crop is going to be excellent and the basis is terrible here, I'm not really sure what is going to happen. I can say that we believe in storage. We can house about 85% of our entire crop under our roof at our farm. We've invested very heavily into that, and this year it's really going to pay off. There's about a 50-cent carryover from now if we can hold it until March. So marketing, get your feel in. Look at the changes year to year. Weather's a big concern. There's big demands all over the world. But look at where your corn and beans are going. Look at it where your commodity is going, and do a lot of research. But it takes time, just like anything. It takes a lot of time.
Well, thank you, Kate. So it sounds like you are definitely taking in all the market information you can and giving yourself some flexibility by investing in storage. And those are two marketing tips that anyone can use, whether they're marketing vegetables or corn and soybeans. Mm-hmm. So we have some questions for Jewel relating to how does she see women's roles in ag business and education evolving?
Right. We are just primed and ready right now for leadership. We just named a new interim president on Friday, and she's the first female who's ever been in charge of this university. And, I always say it's for such a time as this because, we used to run into the glass ceiling, and the glass ceiling has kind of opened up, but we still have what they call the grass ceiling. But we're ready, and you can see us emerging all over the place. I think that now people understand that women, when we come into leadership positions, we're as effective as men. We get the job done. We get the job done well. And I really think there's more of an openness now for women to be in top leadership roles, not the second to the top, but to be in the top leadership role. I think there's more respect for what we bring, even the ideas that we generate and the kind of the feeling that we have. And I always say that we don't have to be ashamed of typically being nurturing. It doesn't mean that we're soft, and it doesn't mean that we can't get the job done, but I think that there's an aspect of that we can bring to any operation that really can enhance whatever it is. So I really think that the fields of agriculture and agribusiness are now more open to having effective women. So for us, it's where preparation meets opportunity, which is exactly what it was for me. I was prepared, and somebody gave me the opportunity, and I took it.
Oh, that's excellent, Jewel. Appreciate those comments. Along those lines, both Jewel and Kate kind of mentioned this idea of mentoring. Kate mentioned how important her father has been to her, that he really or she really relies on his strength, his experience, his knowledge. And Jewel, you mentioned talking to younger women, helping them know really how they can step up into leadership roles. So I just have a question for both of you, but I'll start with you, Jewel. If you would speak to us just a little bit about mentoring. If there are young women on this webinar who would like to seek out a mentor, what advice do you have them in doing so?
Mentoring is probably, I would say, in my opinion, one of the key things that will help sustain anyone in leadership. Men have had networks of mentors for years. Women, we get into the positions, and sometimes we're kind of shy about asking for help because we don't want to seem too vulnerable, but it is often a mentor who will help you make it through. They help you understand that you don't have to know everything and you're not alone. But we do have to let people know that we need help. For me in this role, I came in here, I rose to the level of the position even faster than I felt prepared for it. And I really had to kind of seek out mentorship because people are shy. You know, they don't want to talk about the need for help, but you have to ask for that help. And you have to look at the person who you trust and who is indeed their role model and let them know. And it was when I extended myself and I reached out to ask for some help that I got it. And it changed everything for me because I then had someone to talk to. I then had someone to run issues by, so I felt not so alone because we feel alone in these roles a lot. So reaching out and letting someone know that you need mentoring is helpful. And when you're in a leadership position, letting people know that you're willing to mentor them and do that is what can change the next person's life. So it's really important that we do reach out when we have needs and that we extend back when we see others with needs.
Thank you. Those are really good words to hear, that it's okay to ask for help, and that in your case, that was really what propelled you to the next level or comfort level in your role. So important words to hear. And going to you, Kate, on this topic of mentoring, you are basically asking your dad for help. You also stepped out into your community to be a part of the Soybean Association and the Farm Bureau. And what are other ways that you are asking for mentorship?
Mentorship is really, really important. I would feel that, I'm definitely on the other end. I would say that Jewel is mentoring, and I'm really receiving a lot of the education and a lot of the advice. And, it's really amazing to me how, again, I guess people have just welcomed me into their world, into the agricultural world. And if you just ask questions, if you are interested in what people have devoted their lives to, they will be so willing to share, absolutely willing to share. One of my neighbors, Ron Moore, he is a director for the American Soybean Association, and he's a local farmer. He raises grain, he raises beef, corn, and soybeans. And we were lobbying in D.C. this past year, and he kind of noticed that I wasn't really talking a lot. And women in ag has been a huge subject this year. And so we walked into a different congressman in Chicago, nowhere that we're near. And he goes, Kate, why don't you go ahead and you take this? He's like, why don't you be lead on this? And, if you are just interested in agriculture and people want to share, you need to ask questions. You need to let them know. And I have lived by the motto of life of it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you know the right people that have the right knowledge, you will gain that knowledge as well.
Thank you, Kate. So again, some good words of advice there on seeking mentorship and advice from others. So we have a question about your remarks, Dr. Hairston, on the particular challenges facing African American farmers. Can you expand on that a little bit? Tell us a little bit more about what you see those challenges being.
Yes, it's not anything that we probably haven't heard, but many of the farmers that we work with, the African American farmers, they're part-time farmers, so they don't make all of their income on farm. They simply are challenged to sustain themselves with their on-farm income. Maybe they don't have so much acreage, and they have a difficult time connecting with markets. So some of the challenges are in terms of the input costs. We were talking earlier about the cost of equipment. I mean, equipment is very expensive. Fertilizer is very expensive. All these input costs can be very much a challenge, and African American farmers have a lot of difficulty in terms of sometimes credit issues and really being able to obtain the loans that they need, to obtain the equipment that they need to run their operation. Another challenge that they face sometimes is connecting with their end markets. In Virginia, as opposed to states maybe in the deeper South, we've been challenged to get the farmers to really form associations or cooperatives. They still want to work fairly independently, but really they need to work together a little bit more and to share some of the costs and to share some of the equipment, but that has been challenging. So that limits them in their ability to produce and pull their products together to serve to a larger market or to even identify those markets. So I would definitely say issues with getting funding and resources are some really specific challenges that African American farmers have.
Thanks for telling us a little bit more about that, Jewel. And, it's challenges that many other farmers face too, but it's good to hear your way of just describing these farmers and the kinds of things they need help with. So the cooperatives and working together